specialize in internal audit, risk management, governance, and performance management services tailored to your unique business needs. Our team of experts is dedicated to providing comprehensive internal audits that identify inefficiencies and uncover opportunities for improvement. We help you navigate complex risk landscapes, ensuring your organization is prepared for any challenge. With our governance services, we strengthen your decision-making process, promoting transparency and accountability at every level. Our performance management solutions empower your organization to achieve its goals by aligning individual performance with strategic objectives. Join the many organizations that have benefited from our tailored solutions and expert insights. Choose Brendmo Advisory for a brighter, more secure future. Visit our website at www.brendmo.com or contact us at 011-0263-052 to learn more. Are you looking?
Welcome, everyone. Sorry about that glitch. You know what they say, that trust technology until it lets you down. But thank you all for joining. This morning, we have very specific objectives that we want to achieve in our webinar. We obviously want to understand what strategy is. I'm sure everybody has used this word before. Everyone in the world has used this word before. So we want to understand what strategy is. And then we also want to understand how strategy drives business growth. But most importantly, we want to understand, does strategy apply to all organizations? And this morning, we are very fortunate to be joined by a seasoned global strategy professional, Andrew Constable. He's the founder and principal at Visualize Solutions. This is based in the UK. He comes to us with a wealth of experience in strategy. You can contact him on LinkedIn. We'll share his LinkedIn profile at the end of this webinar. Andrew, welcome. And we look forward to getting practical insights into how we can formulate strategy and apply strategy for businesses or for organizations. I'll be bringing you, Andrew, in at various points in the organization, but for now you can just say hello to our valued attendees and audience.
Hi everybody. Sorry, my voice is going. Yeah, good to be here today, and yeah, look forward to speaking.
All right, so let's get into it. Like I said, we've heard it, we've used it. At times in our workplaces, in our personal lives. I'm unable to see the people attending here, but I hope my son is not here because I'm just going to tell something about him. But if he is, well, he can't beat me. I'll be the one to do the beating. So when my son was 12 years old, we lived in a place in Botswana. And we had neighbors who had very beautiful girls. So I overheard my son say, you know, I need a strategy to hook up with one of those girls. And I was like, does this boy even understand what strategy is? So strategy is not a new word. It's not even a new concept. However, it is one of the most misused or misapplied words, especially in the business world. So before we get into it, I want to get views of what you think strategy is. So if you can just take 30 seconds, just type in the chat what you think strategy is before we get into it. My son used it. He needed a strategy to hook up with one of our neighbors. People use strategy at home, in the workplace, in meetings, in board meetings. But what is strategy? If you could just type that. What is strategy? Hazel, if you're on site, please just read out 1 or 2 definitions of what strategy is. I just want to hear what our audience is saying about strategy. Ezo?
Hey everyone, hi Carol. Okay, so we have Charity saying that it is a plan to get things done. I myself say that it's a plan of action. And then Khadi says it's a strategic tool to achieve business objectives. And Mr. Sawaya says that it's a means to an end.
Okay, awesome. There we go. So you see, different perspectives about strategy. So to truly understand strategy, here's what I think we must do. We must first understand what strategy is not, right? So strategy is not a plan. It's not a detailed plan. A detailed plan tells the organization what to do, but strategy goes deeper. It answers the question why and how to achieve a competitive position. Strategy is also not improving the status quo. So what do I mean by that? Strategy is not an incremental improvement to what already exists. It requires rethinking the core approach to competing in the thriving marketplace. And then the last one that is very, very important to understand is that strategy is not sameness. Doing what everyone else is doing, that is very dangerous. It's extremely dangerous. Following the crowd is dangerous because while the temporary results might get you what you need, they won't sustain your success. And now I want to challenge everyone here. Think about what's always worked for you. But have in mind that even though that has worked for you, it's not a guarantee that it will work for you tomorrow or that it will be relevant for you tomorrow. So then, what is strategy? What is strategy? We have adopted a concept by Roger Martin. Those of you who love strategy, I'm sure you are familiar who this is. He's one of the industry leaders in strategy, and we've adopted his concept of what strategy is. Strategy is about making specific choices, but the one that I really like, that really resonates with what I do in my work as a consultant, is this definition. Strategy is an integrated set of choices. Underline, integrated set of choices. It's not just a plan. And then those choices must then uniquely position you to create sustainable advantage and superior value relative to the competition. So the first thing that we've established is that strategy is not a plan, because while the plan will tell the organization what to do, it does not answer the question why and how. Most importantly, we've established that strategy is an integrated set of choices. And in this webinar, I want us to be very, very practical. Okay, I want us to apply the thinking of what we must go away with in terms of what strategy is. And so they say that experience is the best teacher. So this morning, I want us to be practical. I don't want you to just go away with definitions or theory about what strategy is. But I want, as we delve deep into the world of strategy, I want us to make I want us to make it very practical. And so we're going to hear 3 case in points on how these 3 different individuals and companies have approached strategy as a set of integrated choices in their organizations. And at this point, I want us to bring in Admire. So Admire is a seasoned financial professional who's had a lived experience in the strategy planning process that goes beyond forecasting, that goes beyond just putting out a list of things to do. Admire has lived the strategic process being applied in a way that positions the organization for to be competitive and for sustainable growth in their market. Admire, we are delighted to have you here. Please share your valuable insights with us, and you can have your video on and you'll be unmuted. So sit back and let's listen to Admire's experience in the strategy planning process, what insights he has for us, and what lessons we can take away. Admire, if you can just come in there. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Carol, and thank you for having me here. Good morning to everyone. Like Carol said, my name is Admire. We as our organization have gone through the session of our strategy planning the past year, and some of my insights that I've come up with from this exercise is first and foremost, as we get into this whole process, one thing is clear. What we have as our daily operating views or daily processings has got an infinite extent to what you need to be actually really looking at. One of the first key items that we learned is that it's not something that you do over one day, and it's something that is certainly not straightforward. It's not a straight transaction where you just sit down and say, this is what you want to do. One of the main things that you have to like really look at is to say, what is like the purpose of your existence as an organization, and to say, what is it that you want to achieve, and what do you envision? And and as we go through it, you realize there's a lot of dissecting where you have to look at the mentality that you go into it with, and like the areas where you want to play at. One of the key items is to get into one of these sessions and sit down and be like, you want to get in there to play to win. So which is one of the things that motivates everyone who gets involved in there, to say, then you now like want to look at where you want to play and how you want to play, and like the areas you want to focus in. And then you also then have to get into a way of trying to realize, like, as a process, like as a whole, as an organization, how mature are your processes? And towards like this vision that you want to achieve, how far are you from there? And like, how best do you review yourself and be like, what do we need to put in place? And what are the key areas that we need to focus in? So it will involve a lot of specialized and segmented reviews of your daily operations. And then for someone who went through this process, I'd like to say that the view that I had getting into it is totally different from what it is on the ground. And it has given me so much empowerment to say, all right, as I wake up on my daily day-to-day activities, whatever that I'm doing has got a certain channel and a certain process to tying out to the overall strategy of the organization. And it's something that when you look at it from a perspective of just saying, this is the target that we want to achieve, and you start aiming for that target, there's so many elements that are involved in from different teams, to say, from a day-to-day decision level, anything that you do has to trickle down, going to the overall goal of the organization. And I would like to say, as others probably who have never gotten into such a process or exercise, I think it's quite key to get into it with a very open mind.
Yeah.
And if you get in, you get in there and you realize that what you've been doing for the past 6-12 months has been chasing a certain figure. And then, but then the elements that are involved in chasing that figure are, there are certain things that you would overlook on a day-to-day to say these are probably just operational decisions that do we not do it. But you didn't realize you're just being busy, but busy not going in the right direction towards what you want to achieve. So yeah, it's been a very good experience, and we've learned a lot. We've learned a lot around this, and I wouldn't say we're there yet. I feel like there's still more to do to be way more efficient, but it's been a very good experience. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Before I let you go, Admire, you talked about very key issues that pertain to strategy in the way that it should be approached from an organization perspective. You spoke about the purpose. You spoke about how, as part of defining your strategy, you need to define the purpose. It's very easy to say, oh no, we know what we do. I mean, we are chartered accountants, and so we do books, but that's not our purpose. As chartered accountants, our purpose is to ensure that we relieve that day-to-day pressure of record keeping, pressure of looking at how the organization is performing in terms of profitability and cash flows. So that's the purpose of us as chartered accountants. You also spoke about playing to win. If management doesn't understand why they are in business, the entire organization falls. So if you're not positioning yourself to play to win in your industry, you're simply there. You're a spectator, or you're just in the market really to just participate, not really playing to win. And then you also then spoke about assessing the maturity of your processes, which is also very important. The last thing that I want to just get from you, Admire, is that so when we set off, oh, by the way, Admire is one of our clients. He's literally giving a lived experience of the strategy session that we had with them. So we had set out, Admire, that we will do the strategy session in 2 days. And then what happened there?
Yes, yeah. So like one of my points that I mentioned, was to say it's certainly not like a 1 day, 2 day kind of an exercise. Because when you get in there, you get in there with the view that we're getting in there, we're sitting down and saying, what do you want to achieve? Okay, good. Now let's go. But it's an exercise that takes more than that. There's a lot of deeper diving and dissecting that's involved in the formulation of a strategy.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much, Admire, for that. We really appreciate, and we're happy that you've learned a lot from this process, and you're able to share with the world that, you know what, strategy is actually not just saying these are the targets that we have, and then you end there. It goes into a lot of aspects, and we're going to unpack some of those aspects as we go on. Thank you, Admire. And I want to bring in Andrew. Okay, thanks. I want to bring in Andrew. Andrew, I want you to start from perhaps giving us insights on what you have experienced in the industry in terms of how leaders view a strategy and how they apply strategy. And then from there, it would be great, Andrew, if you could also just share your experience on how you've lived strategy as an integrated, as a process that goes beyond just forecasting. So whether it's from your business or it's from helping clients, because I do know that you have a variety of clients across the globe. So it will be interesting to hear how you've lived the concept of strategy as a professional, and then also as somebody who helps other companies go through this process. Thanks, Andrew.
Yeah, no worries. I think the first thing to say really is strategy is a word which is thrown around a lot. You hear it all the time. We have a marketing strategy, a financial strategy, a social media strategy, or whatever strategy we have, and I think that dilutes the word. I think because it's used all the time. I also think I'll put it out there as well. I think sometimes consultants like myself are the problem because we
Yeah.
debate and argue what strategy is all the time, and we're constantly arguing about it. And to be honest, it doesn't help anyone. So I think that's the first thing to say. The second thing is I would say is that a lot of clients think they have a strategy. So one of the exercises I tend to run when I go in to see clients and work with them for the first time, and I work with the boards of these organizations, I always sit down with them and say, okay, I don't want you to speak to each other. There's 10 people around the table. I want you to write down what is the strategy of this organization. Okay, where is the organization going? Okay, what's its focus? And I guarantee that if there's 10 people I'm speaking to, I guarantee there's 8 different answers, okay, around the table. And I think that's because of this whole confusion around what strategy actually is. And then people don't want to challenge each other either. And they just want to agree with each other. They don't want to challenge. They don't want to push back because if we push back sometimes and we say we don't understand what strategy is, what happens is we can lose a bit of credibility in ourselves, if we're in front of our manager or whatever we're doing. So I think that's really important that we first of all clarify what that is. But normally what I tend to see is that organizations have a set of projects or objectives. Okay, so I'll go in and they'll say, yeah, we have a project to do this, open this warehouse, close this warehouse, do this, do that. These are important things, but they're not enough. They're just literally they're just projects, initiatives that we need to try and get to. What we need to understand with strategy is really we need to understand what's the gap between where we are today and where we want to be in the future. Okay, we call that the value gap. We need to understand what that gap is. And then from that, we can then think about how can we actually close that gap? And that's where strategy comes in. It's how are you going to close the gap from where you are today to where you want to be in 3 years, 5 years into the future? So that to me is the really important part. And just before I get into a quick example as well, the other thing to think about as well, which is often forgotten about with strategy is not something you do and you just put it into a drawer and you just forget about it. Strategy is a process which you should be reviewing. You should be reviewing how are you performing against your strategy? What is our metrics saying, which we'll talk about later, but what is our metrics saying? How are we learning from this? If we don't learn, then there's no point doing what we're doing. Okay, we need to go off and do this. And there's a very good, I'm a very big fan of the strategy professor from South Africa, actually, called Willie Peterson.
What's it again?
Willie Peterson.
Oh, Willie Peterson. Okay.
Willie Peterson's a South African. He's a professor at Columbia University in the US.
Okay.
These 3 books, fantastic guy on strategy. And he talks about strategy as a learning process. Okay. And he follows the same set of questions which Roger Martin follows in what you mentioned earlier. But if I take an example of a customer I've worked with recently, actually, it was a logistics company. So I was working in India.
Interestingly, Andrew, the Thunder Group has a logistics company from there. So it will be interesting to hear what you unearthed and compare with what we unearthed at Thunder.
Yeah, so I mean, my brief example, but I mean, so I was working with a logistics company in India. So my background originally, my career right at the start was logistics. I was in that industry for a long time. And so basically, if we go through the 5 questions which you mentioned earlier, so the logistics company was based in India, and their first question, what's their winning aspiration, is they want to be the preferred supplier, okay, in the high urban areas in India. And for that, they meant areas like Mumbai, Delhi, and they wanted to offer fast and reliable services, okay, for a very short delivery time. Because if you've ever been to India, traffic, everything is terrible in that country. It's absolutely appalling. It takes ages to get delivered. So they want to be the go-to partner for businesses in India. Okay, so that was the first thing they looked at. But then they thought about, okay, so the second question is, okay, where are we going to play in the market then? Okay, India's a big place. We can't just do everything because that's not a strategy. You're not making a So they chose small to medium businesses in the high urban areas. Okay. And their service they were going to offer was offering a 3-hour guaranteed delivery on a product. Okay. For e-commerce businesses. So
Okay.
obviously to deliver 3 hours, a 3-hour delivery, you can't cover every single city because India is a big place. So they focused on high density, small areas. What they actually thought about then is what channels could they use? Okay, so they thought about, okay, we can bring in online booking to do that. We're going to have dedicated apps. We're going to have this, that, and the other. From that, they then thought, okay, so if that's the case, how are we actually going to win in that market? Okay, if the market is the urban areas, how are we going to win? So what they did, they offered a guaranteed 3-hour delivery, similar to what pizza companies used to do in the 30-minute delivery. You used to get it. They did that. And how they used to do it, they used to use a similar technology to what Uber uses and companies like that. And they used the gig network, driver and cyclists, okay, do the delivery. And one of the technology differentiations they used in the how to win was really about using AI to optimize all the routes and how they were doing things. So that was really the sort of the aspiration. They wanted to be the leading provider in the high urban areas. They were going to focus on that 3-hour delivery slot, and they were going to ultimately use high technology using AI and a gig-based approach. When you get into, say, the systems, if you look at the systems they were using, they were going to measure a lot of different areas. So they were going to measure things like success rate, delivery time, satisfaction. But this is when we brought in another tool, which we might speak about later, which is called the balanced scorecard. And they brought that in to say, how are we actually going to manage this? Okay, now we know where we're going to play and how we're going to win and what capabilities we need. How are we now going to monitor and manage this? And that's when they brought the scorecard in and developed it.
Awesome.
This is just an example, a quick example, but for me, it's really about understanding that gap, first of all. Where are you currently today? Where do you need to be in the future? Spend some time really thinking about this and don't rush it. And then designing those integrated set of choices going forward. To me, they're the key parts. Don't go, like a lot of people make the mistake, don't go from one day say we need a strategy and tomorrow we start developing projects.
Yeah.
Okay? Don't do that.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much, Andrew. So you've also brought up very critical aspects of what needs to be considered when we're looking at strategy. You've brought up closing the gap value. So where are you? Where do you want to be? And close that gap. And in closing that gap, then you implement the integrated set of choices. And thank you very much for sharing that example of how in practice on the ground strategy following the selection of different choices came to work for the logistics company in Mumbai. I do hope, Tando, that you picked up, because one of the things that they said they wanted to do also at Tando as a logistics company is to optimize the routes. So one of the things that I picked up, Andrew, you said that your client used AI. So Tando, there you go. You need to research into how you can use AI to optimize your routes. Admire, I hope you're listening. Thank you so much,
that's
Andrew.
actually key. Yeah, that's actually key. Thanks a lot, Andrew, for that.
No worries at all.
Awesome. Awesome. So Andrew, stand by, because I'm gonna bring you every now and then in the conversation as we go on. So now I want us to, so before I go to the next one, what is the trend, or what is the key insight that you're picking up as you're listening to how Admire has gone through the strategic process and what Andrew has just said? If you could just type in the chat, and then Hezo will just be on the standby to give us the first two responses. What is it that you're picking up in terms of what strategy really is and how you should approach strategy for your organization? Anyone in the chat, if you could just, what is it? There are key aspects or key insights that are sort of coming out as we speak. Admire mentioned some of them. Andrew also touched on them. And I'm just going to unpack that in detail. So before I do that, let's just see if people are following. If you're following us. Hazel, if we could just, the first response, and then we move to how we are at Brendmo walking the talk in terms of adopting strategy to drive our business growth. Do we have anything, Hazel, or must I just move on?
Okay, we do have one response, and it says
Yes.
closing the gap between where you are now and where you want to be by having a set of choices that need to be made.
Awesome. Where did that come from? We need to give them a round of applause. Let's give them a thumbs up.
That was from Charity.
Thank you, Charity. Thumbs up for Charity, guys. Thumbs up. Ladies and gentlemen, thumbs up. All right. So I'm gonna review my age without telling you my age. Have you heard of the song I'm Starting with the Man in the Mirror? Okay, so at Brendmo, we always want to walk the talk. We're not the kind that will not test a solution before we take it to our clients. So one of our services or products is strategy development and performance. And for strategy development and performance, we've tried and tested the strategic thinking process. That involves what Andrew spoke about, closing the gap and making strategic choices. We've actually created a workbook, and I'm going to go through that workbook very quickly. I'll just give you the highlights of that workbook is about and how we apply it to make the different choices of closing that gap for our clients. We've used it to identify where we are. Oh, by the way, at Brendmo, we have 3 divisions. We have the accounting division, which covers tax as well and payroll. And then we have the management consulting unit, which I'm the partner and director for. And then we have auditing. So for each division, we've had to sit and say, where are we? Where do we want to go? What are the choices? What are the choices that we're going to make sure that our growth is sustainable and we're delivering value in the market? And so we created the workbook that we use to deliver the strategy as a product to our clients. We tried and tested it in-house. And I have a few screen grabs for how we've implemented that. So write down. I'm going to go through the 5 choices. Admire spoke about making choices. Andrew also came and spoke about making choices. Now I'm going into those 5 choices, and I need you to write those down. Then you can see how you apply them, or if you need help, we are here to help you in that process. We'll be very, very happy to help you. So the first choice that you need to make is what is our winning aspiration? You need to define what that winning aspiration is. The winning aspiration goes beyond your mission. It must be something that will tell the clients who you are and inspire your workforce, inspire you as leaders to deliver. And so what I'm going to go through now are the choices that we made, not necessarily at group level, but at management consulting level. So we realize as consultants that we do a lot of, or we promise clients solutions, right? So our winning aspiration is going to be results that speak. Your growth, our commitment. We sat and said, if and when we deliver a solution to a client and the results don't speak, we've not done our work. So our winning aspiration, number 1 choice, is to make sure that whatever we do, our results must speak, because our commitment is for our clients' commitment. And then in also defining the winning aspirations, we looked at the values. So what are the values that must drive us? And the values, we adopted the group value framework, because these values actually end up being embedded in the performance management. We assess how our employees live these values. And we do it by making sure that these are values that are very practical. They're not just values that are there on the list to make us look good. And so to give it a winning aspiration vibe, we gave it an acronym. If we had time, I was going to ask Admire, or maybe Admire, I'll bring you in before I go to the next one, on what your value is. So we've identified 6 values. So that is integrity, accountability, customer centricity, excellence, innovation, and tenacity. And it's difficult. Well, maybe not. If people here are intelligent, maybe it might not be difficult to remember those. But the way that we make it aspirational at Brendmo is we say we S it. Okay, by S-ing it, we're making sure that we deliver with integrity and accountability. We put the customers first, and we make sure that our management consulting, accounting, auditing solutions are delivered through innovation. And then we approach every client's problem with unwavering tenacity. We S it. And so when you bring aspirations like this to your team, suddenly they understand that it can't, Star knows, it can't just be a solution for a client. It has to deliver results. So remember, we're trying to identify how we're going to close the value gap, where we are now and where we want to be. Choice number 2. Choice number 2 is all about where will you play? Okay, and where you will play is about identifying the field that will be underlined by your aspiration. Okay, and for that, we have looked at 4 main things. I'm just going to show you the screen grabs for that. We've looked at 4 main things. We've looked at products. Under products, we define a lot of things, what our products should look like, how we're going to position them. And then we also, remember, this is our playbook. And this is the playbook that we help clients develop as part of the strategy development process. So we look at the product information, and then we look at customer insights. When we look at customer insights, we're looking at a whole lot of things. Who are people that are going to buy a strategy solution? Who are the people that are going to buy a performance development product? Who are the people that are going to buy auditing, accounting? What are they looking for? Okay, and then we say, what are the challenges? Are they chasing certain KPIs? What are those KPIs? And then lastly, we look at how are we going to target them? Remember, we are making the choice where we will play. And we're not just saying, okay, we're going to target business owners in the insurance industries. We first need to unpack all those things. We're targeting business owners in the insurance industry, but what are the challenges? What are their KPIs? Who are they? And which product will be suitable for them? So as we're making choice number 2, we look at those. We now move on to choice number 3. And choice number 3 is all about how are you going to win, okay? And how you're going to win really looks at the way that we've defined it is we've said, okay, how are we going to align our product or our solutions to what the client needs? And I must be very, very quick to say and emphasize that while it seems cliche, that is a process that you obviously have to go through. We delve deep into these questions. We don't just scratch the surface. That is why when we set out to do a strategy for the Tando group, we thought, 2 days, we got this, we'll be done in 2 days. But because we were delving deep into these questions, we ended up extending another day and another half day. So as you're making the choice of how you're going to win, these are some of the things that we'll look at. What is the product? How we are aligning it? Who are the competitors? What do their products look like? And how are we actually going to engage the market? Okay, I'm moving on to choice number 4. Here is where it gets very practical. And sorry, Admire, I didn't warn you in advance. I didn't even get permission from you, but I've used an example of what we developed for the Tando group in applying choice number 4. And choice number 4 is what are the capabilities we must have to play to win. I know that you would not be able to see on your screens, especially if you've joined us on your mobile device, but the concept here is for Tando, they identified 6 core capabilities and all the different activities that must be connected to the capabilities to make them play to win in their industry. Now, the reason why I get so excited when I come here is because this is the guiding compass of strategy, okay? So if Admire, first quarter, we sit down and we review the progress towards the strategy and all the initiatives and the targets that we've set to achieve and we're not achieving. This is our reference point. What capabilities did we say we need to have? Do we have those capabilities? What are the supporting activities that need to happen? Did we implement the supporting activities that need to be implemented? So we develop this, we list it down, and then we create this visual. Now, this visual is going to be in everyone's face at Tando, so that management understands that if we don't put these capabilities in place, our team will not deliver. Management understands that if they do not empower the team in these 5 core capabilities, they will not achieve their set targets. So in applying choice number 4, this is the exercise that needs to happen. And it's a lot of thinking that goes into coming up with such detailed capability assessment. And like I said, or maybe I didn't mention it. So in our adoption of what works as strategy for our clients and for ourselves, we've adopted different frameworks. So this framework, the 5 strategic choices, is a framework by Roger Martin. And then we've also incorporated the balanced scorecard. Andrew spoke about it, and we've put in our secret sauce, because we can't just get what other industry leaders have come up with. Even though they've been tried and tested, we also need to give it our own flavor. So there are a lot of things that we've done to give it our own flavor, like creating this workbook or the playbook, as it were. And then the last choice there. The last choice is what management systems must we have in place. And this, for me, Andrew, this is where most people start and end. They do this exercise and they say, we have a strategy. Now, this is just strategy choice number 5. You're looking at the strategic objectives. What are the strategic objectives? Like, how do we define where we want to go in a sentence? Once we've defined that, what will be the key results for that? And when we are applying this strategic choice number 5, we apply an integrated framework approach of the objective key results, OKRs. Some of you are very familiar with that. And then we also incorporate the balanced scorecard. But we also bring in our own flavor. And how we do it is we begin by saying, okay, let's start with the OKRs. Objective. What is our objective? We know where we want to go. We've identified what we want to do, but can we put that in a sentence? We then define what an objective is. Let me just say that there are some objectives, and follow me on LinkedIn. We will be publishing, I'm not quite sure whether it's going to be weekly or bi-weekly, but we'll be publishing insights on strategy and performance and all that. The first publication is going to talk about how, as leaders, we come up with what we call strategic objectives, but they're really not strategic objectives. For example, increase revenue. It is a strategic objective, but it's not that inspirational. So we have a way of using the same objective and saying, how do we make it inspirational? And then once you've identified that strategic objective, we now go and say, what are the key results? And how do you link the key results to the balanced scorecard? The balanced scorecard will give you a 360 approach of how you're going to grow your business. Then once we do that, we say, who is involved in this strategic objective? And we call everyone who is involved the delivery chain team. We define that and we look at what are the initiatives, what are the resources required. It doesn't end there. We drill down to the workforce. So that is how we have applied the 5 strategic choices at Brendmo. Now, I want to bring Andrew in 2 minutes to just speak about, okay, I'll bring you in 2 points, Andrew. I want you in a minute, if you can, to just talk about why strategy is important for all organizational types. Strategy is important for PTYs, entrepreneurs, NPOs. Why is it important? And we had an analogy here for mountain climbing. If you have 3 mountain climbers, a mountaineer professional, weekend hiker, and a volunteer, these guys will need a plan to get to the summit, but it will be very different based on the why they're doing it, based on their resources, their goals, and their skills. So Andrew, in a minute, if you could just share why is it important for all organizations to have strategy, and then I'll move you on to the next question.
Yeah, I think it's important because if you just have a set of objectives, they're not joined, it's not interlinked. So I think if you have a strategy, it's almost like having a roadmap, you know, where you want to go and why you want to do something. Okay, so you could have an objective like increase revenue, but you know, how does that fit into what you're actually trying to achieve? Yeah, great, you want to increase revenue, but what's actually going to do for your business? Okay.
Yes.
So for me, you have to have a strategy is having that direction. Okay. It's understanding how you're going to get to wherever you want to go, to your destination. Okay? We all talk about things like aspirations and vision statements and things like that. Strategy to me is more about, okay, how are we actually now going to do that, move it forward? And also, can communicate that to the rest of our business? So our employees on the ground really understand why we're doing something and why we're going in that direction. If we just have a set of objectives or projects, it's very hard for the team on the ground to really understand, you know, why are we doing this? Okay, great. We have an objective or a project to open a new warehouse. Well, great, but why are we doing this? Okay, well, to answer that question, you need the strategy.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. So just in another minute, Andrew, how do you find the right tools to propel growth? Because there are many tools out there, but how do you get the right one? In exactly a minute, and then we wrap it up for question and answers.
Yeah, so for me, I think the first thing you have to ask is you have to answer the question, what are you actually trying to achieve? So if you are trying to achieve, for example, growth, and you need to ask the question, okay, is it going to be something like the 5 steps from Roger Martin you're going to use to try to use that tool? Or are you going to be, and maybe you're past that now and you're going to develop your objectives and your projects? Well, if that's the case, you bring in something like a balanced scorecard, or you bring in something like that. But for me, just understand first question, sit down and work out what you actually want to achieve and why. And don't be blinded by the latest fad that you'll see on LinkedIn, where you'll see different people throwing new things around. It's about what you want first, and go from there.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Andrew. So we've wrapped it up. it's been a sprint, not a marathon. But I'm sure I do hope that you've gone away with something. But before we close, we have 2 minutes for question and answer. And I would sincerely like to thank Andrew for coming. Please watch this space. We'll be having more of these at maybe more time. But for now, thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Admire. Do we have any questions? You can type in the chat. You can also just, follow us. We've given you our links there. These are our details. If you're unable to ask your questions now, you can, call us. There are our details there. For now, let's see if we have any questions, and then we'll just wrap it up. Star will close us off. Thank you so much. It's been wonderful speaking to you. I'll now hand over to the team for questions and answers. But Andrew and myself will be on standby for the next 2 minutes. Hazel, do we have any questions in the chat?
We don't have any questions in the chat. I'm just gonna give it a few more seconds if there's anybody who wants to ask a question.
Okay. Thanks, Hazel.
All right, there's no questions in the chat box. Thank you, everyone. If you've got any queries, kindly connect with us. The details are on the screen. You can take our phone number, email, or you can visit us on our website. Even more, you can come to our office and get more assistance in person if you'd like to. Thank you so much, everyone. This comes to the end. The webinar has come to the end.
Thank you so much. Please do check on our website for upcoming webinars, and also just for the newsletters and all. Thank you so very much.